Colorado to see Dr. McWilliams.
So my name is Christopher Broadbelt, and as you can see, we're in the lab at Jade where we do blood analysis and blood testing. So right now what I'm doing, I'm cleaning the slides because we have to make sure we have a clean slide so we can have a more accurate sample of the blood. So after cleaning the slides, I just place them inside this slide jar to keep them safe. We have the cover slides as well. And then this is the microscope that we would use to look at your blood to tell if you have any parasites, if you have any clotting of the blood, especially with those that's vaccinated. We make sure we do a special check for vaccinated persons with clotting because we find a lot of clotting in those persons. So this is a blood chart that we use sometimes. Get a close up. So when we see certain things in the blood, we will refer to this to get a more accurate tell of what's going on in the blood. So your blood can tell you basically everything that's going on in your body. If you have too much fat content, if your liver is bad, if you don't go to the bathroom enough, if you have blockage in your stomach, it will tell from your blood. So this is just one of the charts that we use to do that. This is also another chart here. So this shows you the different types of blood that we will see. We have your normal blood, which is nice and round. We like to call it donut shaped. Yeah, so once you have a donut shaped blood cell, red blood cell, we don't have any little swimmers around it, then we will say that it's a normal, it's a normal sample. But then when we get down to it and you start seeing different types of structures around the blood, or you see the blood basically looking like a teardrop, then you can tell, okay, maybe this person have a vitamin B deficiency, or this person isn't getting adequate sleep. And then if you start seeing the blood clumping, well, not clumping together, but stacking together, then you can say, okay, maybe this person have a digestive issue where they're not going to the bathroom every morning or going frequently. So these are just some of the things we see on a daily basis. And I haven't gotten into the protozoas and the trichomonas, which are parasites that we find in the blood.
I came from Colorado to see Dr. McWilliams.
So my name is Christopher Broadbelt, and as you can see, we're in the lab at Jade where we do blood analysis and blood testing. So right now what I'm doing, I'm cleaning the slides because we have to make sure we have a clean slide so we can have a more accurate sample of the blood. So after cleaning the slides,
And global greetings. Welcome to another edition of Medicine for the People. We are live here on Real Entertainment Network, and we are with Professor Dr. Charles McWilliams, the famous Jade herbal specialist, with his clinics functioning both here in Nevis and in Miami. And we're about to get into another interesting edition of Medicine for the People. But before we do, I just want to say a special good evening to the folks who are logged in here on Orly and Liamiga, the indigenous names for the lands known as St. Kitts and Nevis, or St. Christopher and Nevis. those who are locked in throughout the rest of the Caribbean region, and for those who are locked on globally. Good morning, good afternoon, you know, good night, depending on your geographic location. One of those greetings will be applicable for you. And we are looking forward to another interesting edition. And we know that the doc is always equipped with loads of information for us. And the information is a part of a course that is being offered for next year. We are actually in the midst of the preliminary course that if you signed up, you would have been able to, get some pre-information that sets you for the bachelor's degree that is offered next year, starting as early as next year. And that's what part of this show is all about. The information on this show is used as a part of the course material. So this is a very, very vital show. So we want to make sure that the doc get as much time as possible to put his information on the table and talk to his students who are students all over the world. So good evening, Doc. Welcome to another edition of Medicine for the People.
Good evening, Yahsonn, and thank you so much for the very kind introduction. And as usual, it's great to be with you all. Great be with you also, Bankie, and the wonderful people that are putting this production forward for the lovely people of St. Kitts and Nevis and the greater diaspora. This evening, we're going to discuss and continue what we did last week. We got into acidity and alkalinity in terms of growth factors, not only for the human body, but also for plants. And I want to continue this evening with the extension of that into the actual practical and clinical applications of that concept of acidity and alkalinity because of its really great importance in terms of health and human nutrition. So, I assume my microphone's coming good through, Yahsonn?
Yes, definitely positive. 100%
Super.
good. Yes.
Excellent. Well, let's have the Lord bless us and grace us this evening for the knowledge that we want to receive from him, and me being just the carrier in the vehicle to bring it to you. So let's review what we came to last week, and that is that we have two vital kingdoms on planet Earth, the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. Is of subject to what we are talking about. So in terms of energy production, which is really the fundament of health, because if the cell of the human body doesn't create the energy, the normal processes that are basically controlled and regulated by the diet and our genetics doesn't move forward. So energy production is really the key focus of everything that now is transpiring in medicine, now that the whole genomic project has basically collapsed this idea that chronic disease is mainly caused by the genes. We know now that is not the case. The chronic diseases of human beings is mainly caused by the failure to produce energy, which is heavily reliant upon the nutrition that the person consumes. So in the plant kingdom, you have the cell, which is kind of opposite of the mammalian or animal cell, in that the plant cell receives the sunlight and from there takes carbon dioxide and water and produces sugar as a storage project of energy for that particular species. And the opposite in the animal kingdom is we're not able to directly obtain enough energy from sunlight, so we have to eat plants to obtain the sugar, which then is brought into the human cell and is oxidized or combusted and releases those same photons that the plant captured. And in the human system, it's at that point not considered a photon, it's actually considered a larger subquantum particle called an electron. So to say that the body is driven by electricity is true. But we have to keep in mind, and forever keep in mind, that that electron that's in the plant that we obtain actually was captured particles of sunlight and put into carbon dioxide and water and made into a sugar. So let's keep this in mind, that we have plant that receives sunlight, captures that sunlight, inhales carbon dioxide, brings up water from the earth and from the rain of the sky, makes a sugar. Animals eat that sugar. The animal needs to drink water to break that sugar down and extract electrical energy from that sugar to drive the internal mechanisms of the cell. And as a result, we release back carbon dioxide to the atmosphere that then returns back to the plant kingdom. And so the photosynthetic cycle, as it's called, or geologically the carbon cycle, revolves and rotates around this whole operation of the wonderful kingdom that God has given us, of the plants, the animals, the sunlight, the rain, the water, and of course the minerals of earth. All of that combined makes the wonderful, beautiful kingdom that we live in. So that's principle number one. So principle number two is the plant kingdom, of course, produces a plethora of compounds, hundreds of thousands of different compounds. But in their macromolecular structures, we categorize those into three particular domains of plant material, that being carbohydrate or sugar, fats or lipids, as we call them, and protein. And we consume carbohydrates, fats, and proteins as our principal macro fuel that goes into our body and our cells, that is metabolized, that is, it means it's oxidized, and what's left over generally is either an acid or an alkali compound. And that's the basis of our topic today, is understanding that as a result of combustion of sugar, the human body is an acid-producing organism. An acid is a compound that has lost electrons. In other words, those plant compounds that we've ingested, the proteins, the fats, the carbohydrates, we oxidize those in our system and we extract electron energy from them. And the species that's left over, the molecular species, as we call it, is devoid of an electron, and that makes it what's called an acid, which is why acid is written with the particular designation. For example, on this board I will write hydrogen with a plus sign. That plus sign means it's lacked an electron, has been extracted off of it, and that's what's left over. So the acid, as we say in biology, are electron robbers. In German they call them Elektronenrobber. It's there to grab electrons, which means if we don't remove this acid from our body, it will grab the electrons that we need to have energy for to maintain a normal daily life. So we say that the human body is an acid-producing organism by virtue of the food that we ingest to extract energy. Counterbalancing that nature provides those foods that come in, there's also a balance of mineral elements that are in the body that are alkali. In other words, they have an abundance and they provide an abundance of electron energy for us, which is why minerals, as a rule, basically conduct electricity. If you take copper and congeal it into a hard compound called a wire, we know copper wire, of course, easily transmits electricity. So minerals, as a rule, have an abundance of electrical activity, and our body drives and thrives on mineral elements getting into our system, particularly one particular compound we discussed last week, and that's calcium. Calcium in the biologic kingdom is the wheel of life, okay? It's the wheel of life for the plant. It's the wheel of life in the soil, and it's the wheel of life in the human tissue. Calcium is a alkali stabilizer in the system. It's so stabilizing, in fact, when it's congealed together, it will actually make bone of a human body, which gives us structure, gives us function, gives us longevity, gives us all of these properties of stability. And you can just think of calcium as a stabilizing element that when it's congealed in the body, it forms bone and structure. When it's mobilized in the body, it transfers harmoniously electrons throughout the system. It's sort of like a gear in a clock. It's a timing gear. It's one of the big gears in the cells. It distributes the electrons fluidly and stably in the system. When the human body is devoid of this calcium, you have what we call metabolic breakdown. Your energy efficiency is not stable. And in terms of symptoms of people that don't get enough calcium, one of the first and early hallmarks of that is pain. Pain in terms of aches, pains, tiredness, soreness, lethargy, and another big hallmark of calcium deficiency we see in patients clinically, they have insomnia. They suffer from a lot of insomnia. They have nervousness, they have twitch, they have tremor, they have tics. Patients will say to me all the time that they feel like they have gas moving in their body. And I got gas in me head, gas in me belly, gas in me legs. That's the sensation the body gets when calcium is in deficiency and it's unregulated. So that's one of the clues of a calcium deficiency. We could basically state throughout life, the predominance or the overall symptom we see in patients is we assume calcium deficiency until proven otherwise. Okay, children grow up, they have lack of stretch, they have lack of growth structure. As we say, they don't thrive. They have thin bones, they grow up weak, they grow up skinny, or they grow up opposite to that. They grow up and they gain weight too fast, they become obese quickly. They can't think well, their mind is numb, their brain doesn't operate. These are all hallmarks of calcium deficiencies and hallmarks of a person that's eating a diet that's not getting enough good nutrition from plants, that they're getting adequate sugar, but the plant doesn't have the counterbalancing calcium, and another mineral that's second to calcium is magnesium. They're not getting enough of those elements in the body, so they're burning sugar, they're making acid, but they don't have the counterbalancing alkali minerals to neutralize that acid. So then they become what we call an acidified, or a patient that's in a state called acidosis. Okay, they are in metabolic state of where they are in what we call a state of dietary acidosis. And that has to be corrected. And because everything in the body is electrically driven, another concept we learn in naturopathy, or nature cure, as we call it, is that if you don't fix the acid-alkali balance first, no matter what you prescribe to patients in terms of bush or vitamins, or even medications that doctors give, they don't pay any attention to acid-alkali balance, and they don't realize that their medications are not functioning optimally because the body is in an acid state and is dysregulated. So the whole electrical balance is upset, and therefore they need more medication than they would normally need to get a result, simply because their electrical system is running down and deficient because of the alkali deficiency their body has. So I know I just threw a lot of concepts at you all at once. Sorry about that, but this is a theme that we constantly go over in classes by different vantage points, so that it becomes conceptually second nature to you to understand this acid-alkali balance of the system, And as a background, to give you, fortunately, a very easy way to diagnose a patient that's not well. Once you understand that they're in an acid state, if you just simply prescribe simple measures like drink more water, take an alkalizing compound, or give vegetable juices or fruit juices, the body immediately will start to get well, simply because the body is a natural healing organism. We don't make patients heal. Doctors don't do that. God does that. Nature does that. The body has a self-healing a mechanism. We simply look for the things that we assist that can accelerate the healing process when the patient is in an ill state. I hope everybody basically understands that. I'm going to pause 1 second because there's something I want to show you all into how to make this diagnosis. So Yahsonn, give me 60 seconds. Let me go get something I forgot to pick up before class. I'll be right back.
No problem. And you know, as I listen to the doc, there are a couple of things that jumps out at me. I for a couple of years would have followed the teachings of Dr. Sebi, and a lot of the things that the doc is here highlighting and quantifying and explaining even in more detail from a scientific and a doctor's perspective, they align very much with the teachings of Dr. Sebi. There are a couple of things that I wanted to question, and I guess when the doc gets back on camera, we would be able to ask that. There was one when you spoke earlier, doc. You spoke to the sun and the process of photosynthesis, so to speak, and the plant and the ability of the plant to use the sun to make food or sugar, so to speak.
Yeah.
What is the difference, if any, in terms of that same plant being grown under a light medium, which is not the sun, versus being getting that same activity taking place from the sun? So is there a direct difference and or nutritional or health, let me say health because you're speaking health benefit from utilizing the plant source, the sunlight source version from the light grown, under light condition grown plant-based substance?
There is. There's actually a dramatic difference, and I hope I don't get too esoteric for you all, but I think if I kind of give you a drawing concept of how this operates, you'll have much more appreciation of nature and of God's kingdom. Everything in the physical universe basically operates by atoms. Is everyone able to see my drawing on the blackboard?
Yes, I think. Well, I am seeing it, and I'm hopeful that the others are seeing the vision or the view that we are seeing. Okay, you're trying to zoom it up. Okay, yeah, better. Yes.
Should be a little better.
Yes. No, the next. Yeah, right.
So everyone basically learns in high school, of course, that you have a nucleus. This nucleus is actually a vortex, okay? It's just like one little tiny little magnet, okay? It has a center where there's an inhalation of what we call ether, which is a vast domain of an ultrafine, it was described originally as a fine gas. Okay? It is a carrier of electrical energy. It's a carrier of sunlight. So we say that sunlight basically has 400 to approximately, 600 to 300 nanometers of wavelengths of light from red to ultraviolet. And the wavelength that travels on this sea of energy is called ether or ether. That is inhaled into the nucleus, into a compacted nucleus, and as it's drawn through the nucleus, it develops these rings around it, looking like a donut, basically. That is where the electron rotates. Okay? So sunlight is traveling through this ether, but this ether also is mixed with the flux of energy from the north and south poles of the magnetic field. So when you have sunlight coming from the sun, it's basically writing with a mixture of other compounds that the earth is modulating itself through a magnetic field, and it becomes an ensemble of energy. Okay? You appreciate this when you see the sunrise in the morning and you see the sunset in the afternoon, the different colors, the smell of the air, the crispness of things on a bright sunny day that's beautiful. You can't duplicate that inside a hothouse to grow tomatoes. Okay? You can artificially create a portion of that with an excitation of a gas inside a glass tube. And yes, you can get rays coming off these glass tubes that will give enough energy to a plant to make, for example, a sugar and a compound. But anybody knows that when you take a hothouse tomato versus a tomato that's grown out in the field, there's a marked difference in the taste right off the bat. Okay, there's a marked difference in the taste, and what you're tasting, okay, is not just the electrons that are spinning around this atom, but a finer aura, if you pardon the term. That's the electron itself also generates its own field and puts out these tiny little, it throws off these tiny little particles that the only humans don't see it because they're told it doesn't exist when they grow up, but animals sense it. You know, animals sense it. There's certain things, for example, mice in warehouse basically won't eat white flour or white sugar as readily as they'll eat something that's brown, that's more natural. It's an aura of things. Okay, so that is something that we teach. We go right in depth into this concept because it's actually the basis of all the ancient medicines. The ancient medicines called these humors: earth, air, fire, and water. Okay, it's a secondary property of nature that it's more transient. It's difficult to detect with scientific instrumentation today. Okay, that's not going to be the case 10 years.
One second. Okay. You can take off the zoom so that you can get your face back into the middle of the picture so that we can see it.
Yes, I'm back.
Right. Okay, so go ahead.
So these are secondary, finer aspects of nature that you basically can't simulate, you can't duplicate. Okay, so there is a big difference between organic gardening and then hothouse grown foods. Now, I'm not saying that there's a good and bad in all of that. I mean, obviously, if you want to live in some place like Michigan or Minnesota or North and South Dakota, and you want some type of fresh vegetable in the winter, hothouse is going to be really your only choice, correct? So there are, I'm not saying this is a good or bad thing. It's just a fact of nature. That's what I'm explaining.
Understood. Thanks for the verification or the clarification. Sorry.
So this is a big difference between our school and regular normal schools that just teach you, fats, carbohydrates, proteins, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. They only teach you the hard minerals, the hard things of life. We go more into the quality or the secondary aspects of things regarding more natural components and what makes body heal, and the respect and appreciation we have to have for the indigenous medicines, because this was all part of indigenous medicine. The component of indigenous medicine is that these humors, which was even in West Indian medicine, believe it or not, it's found. It's basically understanding principles of hot and cold. Well, hot and cold just aren't scientific things you measure with a thermometer. Hot and cold also have qualitative properties to them. For example, you've heard of this thing called hot stone massage, right? Where people would warm stones and put them over certain areas of the body. And sensitive people recognize that different stones will have different qualities of heat that come off them when they get hot. They have different properties. Mind you, they're subtle, but biologic systems like humans and animals are sentient. They respond to subtle energies, okay? So it's more than just having a thermometer and saying that, there's no difference between a dry heat and a warm heat, or a moist heat and a heat that comes off a fireplace or things like that. Yes, you can make it by a thermometer. You can see it has a mathematical degree of difference of property, but there's a quality to them too. So we teach the more subtle quality things about it. And it applies to cooking as well. What a meal tastes like with or without spices. Which one is more appealing that you want to eat? Obviously, you want the food that's cooked with love and care, and a blend of spices, and the taste, the nourishment is altogether different than if it was just taken off the grocery shelf and taken out of a can, poured into some hot water and eaten. There's a great difference between the two. I mean, common sense tells you that.
Yes. Now, as you said, water. There was another question I wanted to ask in relation to something you said earlier. You said that's when you were talking about the acids in the body, and you said that the acid robs the body of the electrons.
Yes.
Then you said that you would recommend to persons. One of the things that you recommend to persons to help to get rid of the acids out of the body is to drink water. There is a theory in terms of the alkalinity of the water, and to make sure that the water is alkaline based water. Do you subscribe to that theory, and is that something
Yes,
that you would recommend to that person? Okay. It is said that spring water, so to speak, natural spring water, is one of the best forms of alkaline water. If so, do you subscribe to that one? And two, on the water scheme of things, are there any type of water you would recommend, so to speak, to persons who may be listening at this point and would be interested in continuing to seek to alkalinize their body by utilizing more water, as you're here suggesting and recommending?
Yes, alkaline water is absolutely a fantastic way to quench the acidity of the body. The more alkaline the water, of course, the more reaction it will have on the system. Secondary to that, of course, is how the alkalinity is formed in the water. If it's formed by the mineral content, and that's going to reflect the degree and quality of the water, all right? Or the water can also be alkalized by the addition of alkaline salts. For example, at the Jade Clinic, when I see people that are drastically acid, I will give them an alkalizing powder to put a teaspoon in their water, so I don't have to be concerned or have to know exactly what their water source is. I just know that if they alkalize the water and they start drinking it, their body will recuperate much quicker, okay? Then there's another aspect where you can buy electrolysis machines, which are called alkalizing water machines. Those are very good. I actually have one in my home I use to, as it comes through the tap, it goes through a series of metal plates which electrically alkalizes the water. So as you drink it, it neutralizes acids in your body quicker that way. And that's a very efficacious way of doing it too. So in the short run, it doesn't really matter which way you alkalize your water, whether you do it by electricity, whether you want to do it by alkalizing salts, or you can purchase very alkaline water as spring water and drink it that way as well over the long term. So the reason I wanted to pause was I wanted to show you all how you make the diagnosis of this, okay? This is pH paper. Let me get it in the screen here. This is pH paper that's very cheap to buy. There's many brands of it. It doesn't matter which one you get. But the basic concept is that you take a strip of the pH paper and you just tear a little bit off. And there's two things you're going to do with this. One is you're going to wet it with your saliva, and it's going to give you a color, as you can see at the tip where I got the pH paper moist. You can see it's turning a dark green, okay? At the other end, you're going to dip it in your urine, and we're going to take an index of the saliva and of the urine together as a composite, and basically the saliva tells you how the body is storing mineral salts, and the urine is telling you how the body is excreting mineral and acid salts as well. So we have a comparison system of urine and saliva, acidity and alkalinity, and that tells us the storage content of the cells of the body through the saliva. And then the urine tells us how the body is getting rid of acid. Okay, tells us how acid the urine is, tells us how acid the bodily fluids are in the body. So we compare those two. So the wider the discrepancy between the two tells you the sicker the patient is. The sicker the patient is. And it's real simple. And if you look at the link at the bottom of your screen and you want to enroll early in our course for next year, our first course, which we call Healthology, it's 10 one-hour lectures in that program, and it will give you the full spectrum of understanding how the body is producing these acids and how they're reflected in the acid and alkaline urine. So you get a global concept of how the body is metabolizing food and how you're excreting poisons and toxins, and how on a day-to-day basis that's regulated by the breath, the exhalation, inhalation of air, which also helps you get rid of acid, and the drinking of water tells us how the body is flushing the acid out, and that should be stable both in the alkaline, in the saliva and also in the urine. And the magic number is 6.5. 6.5, which means the fluids of the body are naturally slightly acid. The fluids are slightly acid. Those are the extracellular fluids, the fluids that the body is expelling, and that is counterbalanced by the blood, which is 7.4 alkaline. So the blood stays alkaline and the extracellular fluids stay acid, and that's the balance that the body keeps for being in homeostasis, or what we say, neutral health. That's kind of how it operates. So, simple concepts, takes a while to grasp and kind of wrap your head around. If you didn't pay attention to your high school chemistry, we review that for you in that first course. We spend an hour on basic chemistry, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, fats, proteins, sugars, and how your body operates and cycles those with your diet and your breathing and your urination, your defecation, and your digestion. So that's the pH paper.
Bankie, good evening. I realize you got in a little bit late, but we would have gotten through with a number of things here as we go through this very interesting discussion. One of the things, yes, the pH tape that the doc spoke about just a while ago, and that's one of the ways that he used one of the methods used at the Jade Clinic to be able to determine the acid and alkalinity of the body, and to determine how sick, so to speak, based on the gap between both. Bankie, we're talking, alkalinity and alkaline in the body. And like I was saying earlier, during the time when Doc took a little break and went for the pH tape, a lot of what he's saying aligns with some theories that I learned from listening to Dr. Sabi. Even this whole alkaline theory, and that is why I asked about the water and all this, because a lot of this is things that he would have, spoken about in his theories in terms of what we should be doing and how we should be eating and so on. I noted that you said the magic number is 6.5.
Yes.
So you're saying technically, even though you would subscribe to try to keep the body more alkaline, or eat more alkaline-based foods and drink more alkaline-based water, you don't necessarily want the body to be fully over, in terms of the pH, not necessarily over 7, or not necessarily less than 6.5 is what you're subscribing to.
Well, you have to understand that you have an extracellular fluid and you have an intracellular fluid. Okay, the blood we consider parallel to the intracellular fluid because it's the nutrition that feeds the body. There is also fluids that the body excretes, like lymphatics and tears and sweat and even mucus in the throat. These external fluids are fluids that the body is throwing off. So there's a balance between the two. Okay, so inherently the body should be alkaline. It has to be, but the refuse that the body throws off is what we measure when we do the saliva, we do the urine. We have to take into account that is also part of the refuse or the secretions the body's putting out, because that's how it adapts and that's how it survives. So that's why we take the saliva and the urine as two measurements to compare the two. And unfortunately, in a clinic, it's actually very expensive and difficult to measure the pH of the blood. It takes very delicate special equipment to do that. So we don't have that in a clinic. We just assume that if the person's walking, talking, and chewing gum, that their blood is alkaline. Because if it wasn't, they'd be in the hospital. Okay? Because when the blood pH goes off, you're in coma or you're in convulsions. No ifs, ands, two ways about it. So we always assume if the patient walks in the clinic, the blood alkalinity is preserved. So now we're just looking at the fluids that the body is throwing off. if that makes sense.
Yes, totally understood.
Yeah. So,
Bankie, good evening. Sorry, I
Yes,
was just going to introduce the host for
Good
this
evening,
evening.
yes,
Greetings.
good evening, Yahsonn, and good evening, Doc, and good evening to those who tune in to your entertainment network, Medicine for the People. Greatly appreciate you guys tuning in this evening. Sorry for being late, just had a little technical difficulty with the youth, and them. One of them went with the laptop, so you know it is. I had to just wait till they come back. But that's in-house matters. But yes, I've been here listening, very intrigued when it comes to the pH and the alkaline, because the pH of within the soil is very important, just as the pH of water and within the body. Because one of the things, especially when it comes to hydroponic systems, whether if you work in this, really, if you plant something, you should really be testing your soil every time you plant. But usually we don't do soil tests and stuff like that. So you're just assuming what do you have in the soil by adding. But sometimes if you add a manure, depending on the manure you use, you also add in more acid too, cause a lot of animals they pee when they defecate and stuff like that. So you're adding more acid to the soil. So you have to really understand the components, because the reason why I'm saying this, the pH really for all nutrients to uptake, because there's something called nutrient lack if you come to acidic or if you come to alkaline. So you have to keep it within a range. So the range between 5.5 and 6.8 is where all nutrients is uptake. So is that the reason why you're trying to keep the body within 6.5 is in order for, well, the purpose of eating is for the body and the kidney and the liver to extract nutrients from the food you consume. So it's really is unfiltered into the bloodstream. So it's just that is where you really want it, because when you eat that, at least the body can absorb all its nutrients that is really needed for life sustenance. That's the main reason.
that's correct. The system we're talking about, acid-alkaline balance, was actually developed by Kerry Reams, who was an agronomist. And he took the same testing,
of course,
the actual testing material that he was using for soil, and he noticed the parallel similarity in the human, and created a whole system of acid-alkali balance, which, you know, when you read books today about the human system and the acid-alkali balance, it was actually Kerry Reams that started all this back in the 1960s and 70s. So it was really his birth, was a man that grew plants, was what created this acid-alkali system that we know today.
From my perspective and analyzing my environment, understanding the mineral domain, the animal domain, the human domain, the ecology, and everything within the environment, as the eyes can see, is realize we all are one and connected. We don't exist without each other, and that's just the reality. But we have lost ourselves and not realizing you're not different than the cat, the dog, the tree that you sit, because we're really eating for nutritional purpose. You know, that's all it. We like how food tastes, which is fine because we have those tastes, and the icy things different. So you love how, but you're really eating for nutritional use, because we should really know our BMI, your body mass index, to see how much calories you need to consume at daytime and how active you are and all the difference. So because we are really what we eat, you know. And and really it is said, if you eat differently, because energy is transferring everywhere you look at it. Sometimes, I mean, we've been speaking these things. I've been eating vegan for over 30 years. Since I'm 17, I've been eating like this. And it's just understanding, because that teaches you to read a lot, but you consume. So over the years, you just find yourself reading that. You should be able to, if you read anything that you're going to eat, you should be able to, the first 3 ingredients should be simple. If you start, because the first one is what is most of is made up of. The second one is the less, and then you start to go down with words you can't pronounce. Is many whole heap of preservatives and all this craziness. So it's all about understanding what you're eating and the purpose of what you're eating these things for. And then you too have to put yourself in a situation where you sweat a lot. Make sure you sweat daily. Sweating is very important to release toxin. It's just going to go to sleep. You have yamp in your eyes, wax in your ear. All these, the body just releasing this toxin within in its body. It's like you push your nose and you have worms coming out your nose and all that different stuff. And water is very key. Very also, what rainwater is not that alkaline. The rainwater that drop on your roof and people capture into their cistern and they tap. But is a container is what is most important where it is capturing.
Correct. And what the roof is made of, whether it's, it has metals in it or material or pollution in the air, exactly.
So is people moving away from the water that they've captured over the years and going to buy water from where the bottle is being refiltered, adding up different components, and fluoride and all this, and sodium is added into the bottled water they're buying, where they have a more safer water, must say, that they can just capture and have it there, but we have just been commercialized to be buying water. Because the water I use is cistern water and stuff like that. I don't go and buy water from the places. You understand? It's rare, but my water is captured, and that's been for years. So we really are losing ourselves. Because the way we have been grown and how to be eating, the traditional way of eating, and is really the way how to be living, being active, walking, running, all these things that we can see that is primitive, is really the way how we should be living, connecting, walking barefoot once in a while, connecting with the earth and not walking in the grass and all these things, is really grounding yourself and anchoring yourself within the earth itself. But we just figure and it's looked down and really guess it's poverty. But the reality is that's the way how to live. That's why we parents don't live so many long years, is eating what they grow and exercising, sweating. But these things are now considered hard work. So how you gonna find a people even within the system where everyone tend to look down on agriculture and figure it is for a set of people who is not academically inclined, or they're at the lowest when it comes to the school system. So let them go do agriculture work, but not realize it's the most noble profession there is. Without it, we don't exist. So how can something like that, which is just connected with nature, who we are, you don't want the fuel for your existence. You gotta just go and buy it when you can have it there and know it's a higher value of fuel that you will put into your body and nurture, help yourself live longer. It's just strange how we have been conditioned. Yes, it's just sad how we have been conditioned by our leaders, and because the idea and the trick is not to get sick. That's the trick, just not to get sick. Because I don't get sick, and yes, don't get sick. Well, you don't make no money, so you want them to stay healthy, but they're not making the choice to stay healthy, so they're just be giving you easy money. You want them to stay. That's why you're doing all these classes and all this information you're giving them is to teach them. But the issue is people are not disciplined. You just have to do 90% right, The next 10% could be any other thing. It's just a balance. That's all it is.
Well, the definition of doctor means teacher. It doesn't mean a person that writes on a pad and prescribes tablets. That's called pharmacist.
Well, what we have here is pharmacists. No, with the doctors, we have our pharmacists. They love writing on pads and prescribing stuff. That's what it's all about for them. You have a different perspective of how you see things. Your outlook is helping people and passing on your knowledge. These commercial doctors, you come from the same lineage, but you just shift roads.
Yeah, that's correct. So it's it's my job, as a physician, as healer, is first make a responsible diagnosis, right? And then second, to determine what path I can put the patient on to correct where they are. But unfortunately, in today's modern world, they're so far down the hole, as we say, they got to get, you're not going to put them on that path very quickly. So you have to get them well enough to feel like they want to do and take up their own initiative and start to correct themselves. So it's challenging in today's world because it's not like it was even 50 years ago. It's much more challenging today because there's more pollution in the environment. There's more changes of lifestyle that people go through. And, as we talked in previous programs, people like to park their car as closest to their office as they can. So they walk the shortest distance and the least amount of air and sunshine and God's beauty. They want to go right into that office and work and push keyboards and papers and do all those busy things. And it's robbing their vitality as they do that. So it's challenging.
So the question is, do you advocate for those who listen to the sound of our voice, especially within the Caribbean, within St. Kitts and Nevis over here, to drink more rainwater?
Because of pollution factors, and today, if they drink water from the cistern, that's fine. I still recommend they filter it, even if it's something as simple as charcoal or, in South America, you go into homes in the countryside and they have big porcelain containers because porcelain is an excellent filter. So they pour water into a porcelain basin and it drips through the porcelain, which captures, the pollution that's in the water and gives them very pure water to drink. And of course, minerals, when they're ionized, they're very small, so they get through the porcelain as well. So, but water in today's modern world, you only need to look out the window and see the jet planes dumping all of the chemtrails and everything else in the atmosphere. The air is not pure anymore. So the water needs to be filtered. But rainwater, cistern water is just fine as far as a source of water because it's supposed to be distilled water, basically, that's coming from the sky. And it's been kissed by God, in the clouds and the ozone. But unfortunately, when it comes through the air, it picks up particles and it's going to pick up any pollution that's in the air. And granted, in our place like Nevis, we're going to have the least amount of that pollution versus somebody that's living in an urban area where you have automobile exhaust and you have all these other things that are in the air. So their water will be more polluted and acid.
Yes. Yeah, that's why I use Nevis and sing it as the example where it's more safer for us it's safer to use that alkaline water so instead of spending unnecessary money and buying the filtered water at the bottle where they bottle them and stuff like that, and they still add fluorine and some add sodium inside of it and different minerals.
Yeah, that's true. Nelson Springs water, I might add, is, I've been to their factory many times. It's very good water. They have good filtration equipment. And, that's a good source. Because you got to remember when you get water from other places.
Steve Tyson there at Nelson Spring for the quality of and standard of his water. So let Steve know he's getting a big promotion right now. Yes,
But when you drink water in other places, in other buildings, remember it's going through pipe.
Yes.
And if it's going through pipe, it's going to pick up particles and it's going to pick up contaminants. So you don't really know. So we could spend hours on water. Water is such a huge subject because it's the basis of everything in biology. It's water. Water is everything. No water, there's no life.
Very true.
Well, technically, 70% water, right? So that's a theory that is quite interesting because there is the liquid diet, so to speak, or the raw food diet, and the fact where it is said that just like with hydroponics, the concept of just basically providing the plant with the nutrients within the water, so it shows that the plant can live without the soil, so to speak. It just needs a medium for it to be held. the same concept with humans, that we can survive if the nutrients or minerals that we need is in the liquid, because it's a similar situation where, okay, for plants, if the plants need the minerals, but the roots can only absorb the minerals in a solution form. So that is why the water is important to mix with the minerals or the nutrients, so that the plants can absorb it and then make use of it. In the human case, we need the minerals, but our saliva functions in that form that helps to create that solution in order to help to digest whatever it is, the nutrients or the minerals that we need. So
Correct.
that diet where you can not necessarily eat hard food, so to speak, but you can, whether it's blend or juice, so to speak, but still get all of the recommended minerals that you need. Is that something that you would give credence to?
In concept, it's interesting, but to say that a human can live on a liquid diet doesn't make sense with nature and biology, if you know what I'm saying. So theoretically, yes, but you're overlooking two essential components. One is the importance of fiber that's in the diet. Okay, that too is a nutrient, by the way, because it's used by bacteria in the colon to generate 3-carbon fatty acids, which are very helpful to the human growth. Okay, so fiber in itself is a nutrient. And then the second aspect is the natural bacteria that's associated with real food, real plants pulled out of the ground, has a bacterial component. And we eat that. And science ignores that aspect of it. In fact, science has been teaching the more sterile the food, the more hospital-like and better it is for you, which is really it's not a biological reality. So it's the same thing with plants. Plants live in association with bacteria that's in soil. And we're now learning that there's extremely minute and tiny little particle elements that are secreted by bacteria that the plant actually uses for nutrition, which you will not get in hydroponic fluids because there's no living bacteria to speak of in a circulating hydroponic fluid. Whereas a plant that's in the ground is adapting and evolving and symbiotically living with the bacteria. So there's hidden components here that science basically at this point in time is ignoring. And to me, when all else fails and you have questions about science, the place to go back is common sense and the Bible. Those two things, common sense and the Bible, will take you back to what's real and what's nature. To me, that's just the way I am.
Well, Doc, it's always interesting when we get into these discussions, and it is obvious that you're like a walking encyclopedia. A lot of these things you're able to just off the top of your head be able to respond to the questions and impart the necessary knowledge, or seek to provide, whether it's through diagrams or careful explanation, as much as possible, break it down as simple as possible. And I think myself, I'm learning a lot from these discussions, and with the ability to be able to ask you directly for clarity, in some cases. And I'm sure at the same time, others who are listening may have had some of these same questions and do benefit from the questions that we interject sometimes when you're making your presentations. I am grateful for you to be able to choose us to present this very vital course information and to use as a platform to advertise the opportunity for folks to enroll in the bachelor's course that is being offered. So folks, you're listening to us now, but starting next year, you could be the next Dr. Charles McWilliams. And we're hoping that in the next, let's say, 5 years, that we could have many more of him, and that we could have many more Jade clinics opening up. You know, we're looking to get the franchise going so we could have a Jade in Dominica, Jade in Grenada, Jade in Guyana, Jade in, you know, Africa. So that is the plan and the vision, but we are giving Nivisions especially the opportunity because we do have one of the clinics here in Nevis, and when we say Nivisions, we are not excluding Kittitians either because we are one federation, but it's just the fact that the clinic itself is based on the island of Nevis. And so we're seeking to, as much as possible, encourage you to take up the opportunity. I am going to allow you, Dr. McWilliams, in the closing moments to use that opportunity to pitch, you know, to the folks. You know, you can give them the price and comparison as well, so that they could realize the offer that is being, you know, given here, the opportunity that is being given for folks who are interested in getting into herbal, you know, clinics, so herbal medicine, to, you know, get involved and learn as much as possible from one who is a proven specialist. You can just go and Google the name and find out all of the work that this brother has been doing for many, many, many years, and he's now seeking to give you that opportunity. So, Doc, use the final moments to give your closing statements and also to pitch for the course that is going to be offered.
Well, thank you very much, Yahsonn. It is a unique opportunity for you because I can see and have seen the way, you know, schools and academies are drifting right now, especially with this coming AI. I can assure you AI is going to make the educational opportunities worse, not better. You can't let machines think for you. And the knowledge is not real, it's not genuine. And you have a unique opportunity with me, the clinic, and the great people that work around me, Bankie, Yahsonn, all of the wonderful Nevisian folks that help me and do this, because I can't do it all by myself. I'm just one person. It's a beautiful opportunity for you to make the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis the world center for natural medicine, where I'm not teaching you how to become a shopping cart doctor. The real medicine is what grows in the ground. That's biblical, okay? And we are teaching a unique course for the first time, really, in the history of natural medicine. Nobody has combined the teaching of natural medicine with natural agriculture, and joining and merging the two into one conceptual framework where the two are one. And there's no school on earth that's doing that. So this is really a unique opportunity to participate in this kind of program. And you're not going to get it anywhere else, because I know I have all the books. You can come see my library on the ground in Newcastle. I have thousands of books. I've been collecting them all my life. There's nobody out there doing this, and we're doing it. And you get an opportunity to take advantage of it. So from the link that you see on the screen, you can download the school catalog. You can enroll tonight for as little as $100 and get started. I mean, where are you going to get into a school like that today? Okay, where the depth of this material, I can tell you, just with the little ether concept I gave you, that's just the tip of the iceberg of this whole panorama of learning that is nonstop. You only start with me. The rest of your life will be nonstop learning, because you'll have these key concepts in your mind that are not synthetic. They're not something you just learn to take a test so you can get a diploma and then go get a license and then become a doctor. This is the school of life. This is the real school. So I'm passionate about what I do, as you can tell, and I've done this all my life. I'm not a newcomer to this. All my life I've been doing this, and I'll do it until God takes me to where the next place I journey. So have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next Wednesday for another exciting class and learning session. And I wish you all to be in God's grace, and I want to thank Yahsonn and Bankie for this wonderful opportunity, and Ira as well, who's working in the background and diligently keeping this program up and running. So for all you good people, have a very blessed evening, and tune in next week and we'll dive into another concept.
Thank you very much, Bankie. You know, we link up again on Friday for another edition of Everything Agriculture here on Real Entertainment Network. We want to encourage folks to go on over to the YouTube platform, like, subscribe, and share. And, you know, click on that notification bell to make sure that you are notified every time one of the programs are aired, whether it is the topics, whether it is Real Talk Corner, whether it's Medicine for the People, or whether it's Everything Agriculture. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube platform. Bankie, as usual, you know, my co-host, my partner, it's always a pleasure to have you here, you know, with me on another edition of Medicine for the People. I'm really loving the information that's been shared and the opportunity that is being given, and we're grateful for the opportunity to use this platform to do this, Bankie. You know, we really are doing something that I'm hopeful that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis take the opportunity to take advantage of what is being offered. With that, you know,
yes, yes. Yeah. Let me say, our guest Friday will be Sylvester Wallace. Chef Sylvester Wallace also is into herbal medicine also, so which will be very interesting and stuff like that. So definitely looking forward for that reasoning. Also remember, you can get your sorrel, your green banana, your plantain, your cassava, cucumbers, pumpkin, sugarcane, star fruit. All these things are available. Some bell peppers in the next 2 weeks. I'll start harvesting some tomatoes, and then within closer to the week of Christmas, harvesting 2 varieties of melon. So come out and check out Shaba's Organics Advances last stop, and also remember tomorrow you can come and get your food, your lunch, and Friday also get your lunch along with Saturday and Sunday. Come and get your catfish and oxtail and whatever else you have on the menu. Soul food. Where you don't see it, you come and ask. But come and check out Shaba's Organics. Get your cassava dig out fresh if you want it. Choose the banana you want to pick out the farm and you prefer it, and any other thing. You can pick your vegetables and come on the farm shopping, do your shopping, pick what you want, put in your bag, and then you pay. Get that kind of meditation. That's what it's all about. I go inside the shop and pick up if you want, but if you want that farm feeling, you know what I mean, yes, and that's what it's all about. So definitely big up Amanis, big up Aisha, big up Tasha. So definitely just want to, you know what I mean, big up those young ladies who are holding on the fort and working together. It's a beautiful thing. So definitely the farm is up and running, keeping my Uncle Mansa memories alive and powerful. So it's important. Everything is in order and everything working out fine. So yes, I'm definitely looking forward for the reasoning. For Friday, also next week, Tuesday, we have another guest coming up, and the topics will be JD Keynes. So lock that in. We're going to get out the poster by tomorrow, Yahsonn, with JD. And then Friday, the following Friday, we're going to have a special edition next week, Friday, of the topics again. So we're going to shift the Everything Agriculture flow from next week, Friday, and got a double whammy, double bubble of the topics the Tuesday. And then the Friday, we have our guest going to be Azad Gums. So we have going to be tackling a special topics that's going on. So tune in for that next week. Next week we have a double bubble of the topics. We have JD Keynes and Azad Gums and the Friday. So we're going to shift the Everything Agriculture and make this space available to accommodate our guests and so Yahsonn, everyone choosing to share and whatever need to speak and put it on the topic.
That's
So
why
we're grateful for stuff like that.
that's why I'm telling them to just jump on over to the YouTube platform, subscribe, and make sure hit the notification bell. So then they wouldn't have to wonder. They would just know that
Yes.
something is coming and they will be able to check it out. We will definitely share the posters on the platforms and you see them on, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We as much as possible try to get the information out there to as many as possible. We must also say thank you to all of our regular listeners and folks who usually, comment on the wall and our
Big up
call
by
in.
yourself. Big up by yourself. Big up by yourself. Enough respect.
Yeah, without you guys, we don't have a show. We know that this is a new show, and so we want folks to as well share this show so that people can know that every Wednesday we are also here, and we are here. This is something that nobody else is doing for you. We have created a space here
Yahsonn,
about medicinal and herbal ways to take care of yourself.
what we want people, the listeners and viewers, to realize, this show is one of the most important show attached similar to agriculture. Because we talk about the eating, it's similar, but no, we have a professional. Well, we're a professional too, but the system look at it. but a professional say because we speak the same thing, but then you have the certified doctor. So you're getting free information, because what you put into your body is what's going to make you sick. And that's just as simple as that. And if you realize when listening to your guys speaking about the alkalinity and the pH, you show the importance of pH, because if your body is too acidic, your body is not going to absorb a lot of nutrients. Your nutrients are going to lock up. And that's the importance of why keeping the pH. The same thing, understanding the ground and farming. You see what I mean? That's the importance of rotating the crop and all this different stuff. Yes.
Bankie, the thing that I would end with, right, is just the reality. We are grateful that we have the presence of the doc, because otherwise they would be like, oh, it's just these two Rasta guys. You know what I mean? They done out us out, and so that is why it's important still that we continue to have that level of professionalism. And even though we have the information, because even though we bring it in a bank, we're telling them, they're gonna be like, Rasta man is coming with the whole Rasta thing, but then when they hear the medical professional and the herbalists who have a lot more confidence in, because he would have been working here in Nevis and he have helped a lot of people, not just in Nevis, but in St. Kitts and other parts.
Have over 7,000. Remember that have over 7,000 clients in Nevis and St. Kitts.
Right.
so they understand how much doctors can say that just on the island alone. Yes.
Right.
You have over 7. So
people,
how much doctors on the island can say they have that much of customers? So basically, he have everybody customers. When the regular doctor not heal, they go to him. So he have everybody, all the other doctors, he have all the customers same way.
That's the thing. So, people, we give thanks, and we really want to thank you for helping to create the shows and keep us, going. And we thank you for your support, and we want to continue to encourage you to continue to support the platform. Subscribe, like. Even right here on Facebook, the only issue we have with the Facebook is just that, after a month, Facebook takes down the videos, and that's one of the reasons why we're encouraging you to go on over to the YouTube platform, where they would be stored there for a much longer time. So we definitely appreciate our Facebook followers. This is where, we mainly had most of our followers, and still have thousands of followers, over 5,000 followers, and we want to thank you all for the support, and encourage you to continue to support and share, and encourage your friends to come and be a part of the platform.
Yeah, let me get next 10,000 next year. Make sure you keep sharing that, so we get 10,000 followers before end of January. So every month you want 5,000 followers every month. That will make that be the goal.
That's the goal. So Ira, Reese, Alan, and all the other members, give thanks for the works behind the scenes. Until Friday, enough love, everybody, guidance, and
I came from Colorado to see Dr. McWilliams.
good day, Dr.